going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Layne and I am a nurse and nurse practitioner student. And in this video, I am going to be talking about my NP school experience and how it compared to my undergrad nursing school experience. Because I know a lot of people are wondering, is NP school harder than nursing school? And so I'm going to talk about some of the things I've noticed and share a little bit of my experience. All right, let's get started with today's video. So first, a little bit of background for me. So I did my undergrad nursing experience more of the traditional route. So I did 2 years of prereqs and then I did 2 years of nursing school. Just because I know a lot of people have different routes, and I am talking about the BSN route in this video. And then for NP school, where I am right now, you guys, I am going into my final year of NP school. And actually today I just took my last content exam. I think mostly from here it'll be case studies and projects, group projects, stuff like that. But I just finished my last real exam. So I wanted to wait until I kind of finished that before making this video so I could give you guys a little bit more information. But I do have about a year left, so I don't know, we'll see. But this is my experience so far. So one of the major things that's different about NP school versus undergrad, or at least it was for me, was that in undergrad, I was the traditional college student, like I was saying, and I didn't have a lot of commitments. It was pretty much just go to school, get good grades, hang out with your friends, and not really worry about too much. I mean, I did, after I got my CNA, I was able to be a nursing assistant, and I tried to do that the last summer before I graduated from undergrad. And even during that last year of school, I think I worked once a month PRN. But I wasn't really stressed about money. My parents were still helping me out if I absolutely needed it. I had some savings. So I really could just focus on school. Versus NP school now, I have so many other commitments, family, friends, people want to take trips, guys, and I was working full-time for at least the first 2 years of my 4-year program. And then since then I've been working as a graduate teaching assistant, doing PRN jobs. So it kind of comes out to at least part-time this past year. And then going into this last year, I'm thinking I'm probably going to be more so 1 day a week working or actually maybe 2 days a week working as a graduate teaching assistant. But all that to say, the commitment level is very different. So I think that's one of the things that makes NP school a lot harder, in the sense that you just have a lot of balls that you need to juggle. Versus an undergrad, it's really focus in, buckle up, and just focus on school. So the next thing that I want to kind of talk about that makes the difference between the difficulty level of NP school and undergrad are clinicals. So in undergrad, my school provided all of the clinicals. You were with a clinical instructor. They tell you what day you need to be at clinical or what days. Usually it was only 1 or 2 days a week that I needed to worry about that. And it was already pretty integrated into my schedule. So I knew it wasn't going to overlap with class time. And I just pretty much needed to show up where and when they told me to show up. But with that, there was a lot less flexibility. If I was to get sick, there's that stress of will I be able to, make up my hours? How does that work? And thank God that never happened to me where I was sick and I needed to make them up. But that's a whole nother level of stress when you're, a young student and trying to maneuver your way through school. Versus NP school, some stresses about it are that for my school does provide clinical instructors. Well, not clinical instructors, but preceptors. But I know some schools, a lot of schools actually don't provide that. So that can be an extra level of stress. I do like the fact though that I'm able to work more with my preceptors one-on-one about creating the schedule that might work for me. But at the same time, depending on what preceptor you're given or that you are able to find, they might have a really tight schedule, because I know some preceptors might only be part-time. There might be only 1 day a week for you to try to work with. And if that's the same day as class, or you have other commitments on that day, it can be really rough to make sure that you get all of your hours at that time. So I think in some ways I'm less stressed about finding a clinical, but it's also I know that all the responsibility of making sure that I get all my hours done is really on me. versus an undergrad, I felt like the onus was more so on the school. I just needed to kind of show up. So in some ways, like, that is another underlying level of stress. And with that, in NP school, not everybody's clinical is the same. And so you're constantly worrying, or not constantly, but you're thinking about, like, am I getting the same type of clinical experience as one of my other classmates? Like, am I getting what I need, what experience-wise, to be able to be a good NP when I get out? And I do believe that I'm getting that, based on, like, other people that I've talked to who graduated from my program. But it's something in the back of your mind that you're thinking about while you're in school, versus I didn't really think about that much when I was an undergrad. Another thing that was really different that I think made NP school harder in some ways is that we really in NP school, we don't get much of a break, like, between semesters. Versus in undergrad, like, we had a full summer break. So you really still had, like, those 3 months to, you know, refresh yourself, do other things outside of school. I will say in NP school, I do get a few weeks in between semesters. So, like, for example, for this summer semester that just wrapped up, it was about 8 weeks. And now I'm getting about really like 3.5 weeks off before the next semester. So there still is a break, but it is different than it was in undergrad, which can kind of add to just, like, not having as much work-life balance as I would ideally like. But I'll talk about that more in a little bit too. Now let's talk about the learning curve between NP school and undergrad. Guys, so I had no medical background really whatsoever coming into undergrad nursing school. Other than my anatomy and physiology classes, like the basic prereqs, I didn't really know a lot about different diseases, illnesses, anything like that. So I was really starting at ground zero. And that's one of the reasons why I will say nursing school, like undergrad nursing school, was one of the hardest experiences. And I think to a degree was harder academically than it is in NP school. And even just the stress of, like, the simulated patients and, like, the simulation experiences and everything, they just felt so high stakes. And talking to other people from other nursing schools, like, they felt similarly, where it's like you just felt like if you failed, like, you were out of the program, and it was just like you're like just studying for this stuff would be so high stress. And, like, if you failed, like, you didn't want to drop out of the program because you've put all this work in and everything. So I remember the learning curve being significantly greater in undergrad. Now in NP school, it's not to say that academically I'm not extremely challenged in NP school, but I had at least like 2.5 years of experience before going back to NP school. So, and I had undergrad under my belt, so I knew the basics about a lot of things. And I had a wider range of knowledge when it came to a lot of the stuff that I'm now learning. But I think in NP school, there's just a larger volume of things that you need to know. Like, you need to know a lot of specific things about a lot of specific illnesses, medications. Like, it's just brought to the next level. But personally, I think that I was more stressed out about that kind of stuff in undergrad. So I will say undergrad, from where I was in my perspective back then, it was a lot harder, especially studying for NCLEX. Like, I was super stressed. And, you know, I'm concerned about the boards in the sense that I know I'm going to need to study, but I feel more confident even a year out that, like, I'm going to do what I need to do and pass these boards. I feel more confident about that than I did in undergrad. And also with NP school, at least for me, I'm getting my doctorate, so there's a lot more of classes that involve leadership, a lot of like more leadership, administrative, doctoral level competencies that you need to know, which aren't hard, but it's like you do need to study, you need to put the work in. So I think it depends on the person, but I would say, like, because I didn't have any knowledge going into undergrad nursing school, that at the time was a lot more stressful for me, just purely like what I need to know with the knowledge. But now with NP school, it is stressful because I just don't have as much time to study for all that stuff. But if I had the same amount of time that I had in undergrad and NP school, I think it might be a little bit better. But that's just my perspective. I know everyone has a different opinion about that. And I don't know, drop in the comments. I want to know what you guys think. Like, did you feel like NP school was more stressful in terms of academics? Or was it because of everything going on in your life and trying to balance academics? I don't know, but yeah. So for me, I would say undergrad nursing school, I was a lot more stressed out in terms of just pure academics. And now it's like stressed out in the sense of like, I gotta juggle like all this stuff and how am I gonna get my clinical hours? How am I gonna do this? But I'm not as stressed about like, will I be able to get, you know, a passing grade? And with that, I did want to talk about the mental health differences between the two. And now this is more of a personal thing for me, but I know my mental health was just not together when I was that age and when I was an undergrad. Like I was like a lot more perfectionistic and I felt like I needed to get A's on everything. So that also made me a lot more stressed out and feeling like if I didn't get an A and pass everything with like absolute flying colors, that I was not going to be a good nurse. And after graduating, I realized that like just your GPA does not decide if you're going to be a good nurse or not. Like there's a lot of other factors with that. And like, you know, how empathetic you are, how you are with your patients, and like your bedside manner. And like, of course, you need to know like certain things about, you know, just the textbook stuff, but you didn't need to get a 4.0 to be like a great nurse. So I think also I've brought that mentality more so with me into my doctoral program, where I still am a high achiever and I really want to do the best that I can, but I have a little bit more grace for myself, and I realize that like I don't need to get A's in every single exam, every single class to still know that I'm going to come out and be a competent and a good nurse practitioner. And so in a lot of ways that has alleviated a lot of my stress that I think I didn't have in undergrad. So that's a big thing. And I think I've heard that from a lot of people as well, where it's like, for some reason, like everyone's mental health in undergrad nursing school was just trash. It was trash. Like, I know, I don't know. Like it just was trash. Like it was stressful. It was. So I think, honestly, guys, I'm going to say that undergrad nursing school was harder, if you want to say. I think it was harder. But again, that's not to say that NP school is easy by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that NP school has a lot of stress it's a different type of stress. And it also depends on how much you're working and how you're like balancing your life. But I know for me, like after nursing school was like super rough, I made the commitment to myself, made the promise to myself that I would keep that balance when I went back to school again. And I think that I have. So I hope this video helped you guys to learn a little bit about some things that might make NP school harder or might make undergrad harder. But I honestly think that just because you had a rough time in undergrad nursing school doesn't necessarily mean that you're not cut out for NP school. Like I wouldn't discount yourself, especially if you have, you know, years of nursing experience under your belt. That really, really counts for a lot. Like it counts for a lot. So, and I'm doing the DNP, but there's also the MSN too, which is also great if you don't want to do like the extra leadership and extra research stuff. So, but anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that it helps you if you're someone who's trying to decide if they want to go back to NP school, or you're just curious about like how hard even is NP school. Anyway, hope to see you guys in the next video, and I hope that you comment below. Let me know what your experience is like if you're in NP school, or let me know any questions that you guys have. Okay, I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to like this video and to subscribe. All right.